Welcome to Amazing Mazes Part 5, and today we're going to add some challenge into our game by creating our very first enemy, the ghost, and he's going to run around the maze and he's going to try and catch the bear. But first of all we're going to start off by making our ghost able to move, and we're going to start making our ghost. So just get rid of that one, get rid of that one, and then just load your game. So go into My Documents, click on your Bear in the Maze game and open it up. Right, we're going to start off by getting the sprite for our ghost. So let's go in here and we're going to name this one SPR_ghost. Click on Load Sprite, then go into your maze pack and into Resources, and then we're going to just look for the ghost that we want for this game, and we're going to pick this ghost here. You can see that this ghost, there's 4 different images of him, and what's happening is when we've selected it, it's showing those 4 different images one after another, and unfortunately that's making him spin on the spot, so he looks quite crazy there, but we're going to fix that in a minute. Okay, right. And we need to modify the mask because we don't want him to be stuck on any walls. So go on Full Image and Rectangle, and then he shouldn't have any problems moving around the maze. Let's create an object. We'll name this one obj_ghost. We're going to give him the ghost sprite, which we just made, and then we're going to change the depth over here. Set it to -2 because we want him to float over the top of the coins and not underneath it. Then we're going to add a create event. So this is what happens when he's first made. Let's go into set variable in the controls tab, drag it over, and we're going to use a new piece of data that's built into GameMaker, a variable that's called image speed. So it's image_speed. And we're going to set it to 0, and that's going to stop our ghost from spinning on the spot. There we are. Right, and yep, and he's sorted out there. So next let's go into our move tab, and we're going to pull over move fixed again. This time we're going to click on up, down, right and left. And we're going to set the speed to 32 divided by 6. And if you're looking for that divided symbol there, if you find the question mark on your keyboard, you should find the divided number next underneath it. Now you might be wondering, why do we use all these different directions? How will the ghost know where to go? Well, GameMaker will actually randomly choose one of these directions, so all we've done is given the ghost 4 different options on where it wants to move. And then every time you start a particular room with that ghost in, he'll probably choose a different direction to move in. Just adds a little bit of variety. Right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to create a step event. So go into Add Event, Step, and click on End Step. Now what's a step event? Well, a step is actually a measurement of time. If you imagine it, it's kind of like a micro millisecond is the best way to describe it. There's 30 steps in a second, so I think that gives you a bit of an idea of how tiny they are. And we use step events when we want something to check all the time. Let's imagine, for example, you want to do something where if your player reaches a score of 5,000, you want fireworks to appear on the front of your screen. Now, depending on how fast or how slow they are at playing it, they could reach a score of 5,000 at any time at all. So the end step just checks all the time whether they've actually reached that 5,000. So we're going to use end step in a similar way for something we want checked all the time. Right, let's go into test variable on control tab. And what we're going to test is H speed. So we just type in H speed. This tests horizontal speed. And we're going to set it to smaller than -1. Okay. And then we're going to set a variable underneath, so drag this one over. And we're going to use this one called image index, so image underscore index. And we're going to set it to 3. Yeah. Right, now what's all that mean? Well, let's show you. If I open up this room here, let's pull that up. If you have a look at these numbers down here, can you see this one says X and the one next to it says Y? If we just have a look at the one that says X, if you watch when I move my mouse across the room, you'll see the number changes. If I move it to the right, can you see that the number's getting bigger and bigger? If I move it back to the left, the number gets smaller and smaller. So one of the ways that GameMaker can work out whether something's moving left or right is whether the number's getting bigger or smaller. So that's how it checks the horizontal direction. And it works the same with vertical direction, which measures up and down. If you look at this bit that says Y, keep your eye on that number, you'll see as I move my mouse up, the number's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. But if I move my mouse down, it starts getting larger and larger. And GameMaker can check that as well to tell it if an object is moving up or down. So that's all we're doing. Now what about this whole image index stuff? What's that mean? Well, let's open up my sprite and I'll show you. Can you see these say image 0, image 1, image 2? Image index works out which of the sprites we're talking about. So you see if I set the image index to 3, we pick out the image of the ghost that's facing left. If I picked image 0, is the image of the ghost facing front. So that's all that does. So all really that our end event's doing, our end step, is it's just matching the correct artwork to the correct direction. So let's put a few more instructions in now. Go on to Control Tab and pull over Test Variable. We're going to check if we're moving to the right this time. H speed larger than 1. So the number's getting bigger, it must mean we're moving to the right. Well, if that's so, let's give him the right image. Image index 2. And then the ghost is facing to the right. Now let's do up and down next. Pull over test variable. This time type in V speed to test the vertical speed. Smaller than -1. And then set variable image index, image underline index rather, must put the underscores in, 1. Okay, check if he's moving up, now check if he's moving down. So V speed larger than 1, set the ghost's image index to 0. There we go. So whichever direction the ghost turns in, he's going to be using the correct sprite. And that's all that end step does. So you see that wasn't too difficult, was it? Let's go into adding another event. Now let's create a collision between the ghost and the grey wall. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create it so when the ghost bumps into a wall, he changes direction. So we're going to use this one, this blue action here called move free. And what this does is it's going to enable our ghost to turn. So type in direction plus 90, and then in speed we're going to add in 32 divided by 6. Okay, so he's going to try turning around, but we need to check if there's a wall in the way. So go into Control and pull over check empty, and then in here where it says X we're going to put in H speed, and where it says Y we're going to put in V speed. We need to leave it on only solid because we only need to worry about whether we're checking if there's a solid wall in the way. If he bumps into a ghost it doesn't matter. So click on relative because we want this to relate to the ghost, and then click on OK. Right, then pull this one over, exit event. So what he's going to do is he's going to change direction, and he's going to check if there's a gap or a wall in the way. And if there's a gap, then we don't need to do any more. So we're going to exit the event. We don't need to do any more in this instruction. But what if there's a wall blocking his path? Well, we want him to turn a bit more. So pull over move free and type in direction plus 180. Speed 32 divided by 6. So we're going to get him to turn a bit more. Go back into control. We're going to check if there's a wall in the way again. Type in H speed, check empty, H speed, and the Y, V speed. Leave it on only solid and make sure you've got relative ticked. Okay, exit event. So if he finds a gap there, he can stop checking and start moving. But if he still can't move, we want him to move again. Just pull over, move free again. And this time we're going to put in direction minus 90. Speed 32 divided by 6. So we will have checked all the other directions to see if he can move. And that's all this does. Every time he collides with a wall, it just checks, can he move? If he can, stop it, checking the instructions. If he can't, turn him again. And that's all that this does. But the only problem with this is if we just did this, and the player would very quickly start to work out which direction the ghost is going to move. He'd be able to guess their actions. So we're going to add in something else to make the ghost a bit more clever. Let's create a step event this time, not an end step, just a step event, because again we want to check this one all the time. Go into Control tab and pull over check grid. We need to make sure that our ghost is lined up. So set it to 32 by 32. Then if you go to this one's called Test Chance. It's got a big green dice on it. If you pull it over, we're going to set this one to 8. What this does is it's going to check. There's going to be a 1 in 8 chance of him changing direction. So go back over to your Move tab and pull out Move Fixed. Then we'll tick up, down, left, right, and we're going to put in a speed of 32 divided by 6. Okay, now how this works is that every step, that's 30 times a second, it's going to kind of roll a dice. If it rolls on the right number, he's going to change direction. And what that means is the ghost is actually suddenly going to change direction in the game when you least expect it, and that's going to make him a much more exciting enemy to actually play against. Instead of the player being able to guess where he's going to move, he's going to be really difficult to guess. So just when you think he's going to go left, he's going to suddenly change and go up or right. So let's open up our room and we're just going to add some ghosts. So click on your Objects tab, click down here, make sure you've got your ghosts selected, just put a couple of them in the room, and then we're going to test it. Okay, so let's have a look at the ghosts in the room. And you should see that as they move around, they'll suddenly change direction. Let's have a look. There they go. And they're moving around. You see they're not getting stuck on walls. We've got the correct image being shown, and they're changing direction when you least expect it. And that's just what we want. Next time on Amazing Mazes, we're going to deal with collisions, lives, and high score tables. See you there.